right, welcome back to another Kirby on Sports exclusive. You can find this exclusively on the Kirby on Sports podcast YouTube page. As always, big thanks to our sponsors, Regroup Building Services, PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, and Chief Graphics. Big thanks, as always, to Dave Johnson and Productions by Quet for our music as well. Pleased to be joined by the host of Listen In with KNN and the host of multiple shows streaming on the Washington football team's YouTube page in NBC Sports Washington, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. Kelsey, thanks so much for the time. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thanks so much for having me. I love your energy. I will feed off your energy, Kirby. I'm a high energy person, and we've got the K's going on, so already excited about that. But again, thank you so much for having me, and just look forward to talking with you in the latest and greatest in sports. It should be fun.
The latest and greatest in sports, indeed. Absolutely. So, you run some of you're a part of some of the greatest content, in my opinion, which is part of the Washington football team. I want to discuss a little bit about that, because it's not like these shows you're just talking about the game that happened the week before. You're actually diving into like random things that maybe some teams don't really have an interest in covering. Like, for example, the fit. They talk about players' fashion and music, life. They talk about the life of Washington football players outside of football. So first and foremost, can you tell us about how you got started, how this opportunity sort of presented itself to you, and how it was for you this season?
Yeah, well, I will tell you, Kirby, I am a hometown girl, meaning I'm born and bred in the DMV area. So the chance that I got to cover the hometown football team, I'm still pinching myself, because that's how crazy it is to me. You know, you grew up here and it just seems like something you always want to be a part of, and you work hard, but you don't know if it'll finally happen. And when it finally happened, I was just like, wow, it's life coming full circle. You know, a team that I used to watch, have to get free tickets to go to games. Now I'm covering them and getting paid by them. Like, how lucky am I? And it's an honor and privilege, because I know the storied history of the Washington football team franchise growing up in this area. And I know this is a football town. And so I knew when I got the offer to be a part of it, I wanted to make sure that I was well connected with fans and bringing them the content that they wanted. And how I kind of got the job, honestly, was just grinding, much like you're doing. They noticed my work. They saw everything that I was doing. You know, I talked with them, years in advance. They would see me at Super Bowl, and they're just like, this girl's always grinding, right? She's always doing her thing. I would be on multiple shows and things like that, talking about the Washington football team. And lo and behold, getting the offer, it was great. And I think it was really perfect too, because they saw my personality and what I do. And I love that they challenged me. You know, most of the shows I'm going on, I'm talking analysis, right, of football games. Like, Kelsey, we want you to do something different with this show. We're trying to expand our content, right? And this is why it's called the Unfiltered series. Fans have been asking us for transparency. They want to go more inside the football team. They want to know more. So these two shows that you're doing, the two digital shows, the fit, fashion is a big part of these players' lives, right? I mean, your fashion style says a lot about you, where you're from, and so many other great things, right? And so we want somebody that can bring that out of them. And then on the life, we want people to know them off the football field, because they're more than these guys just behind the helmets, right? And the shoulder pads. They're human beings like the rest of us, just much better, with much better athletic talent, right? That's the difference between them and us. And it's been great, because I think when you see that personalized connection, and as a journalist, we're always storytelling, it helps you to further connect with these players. And that's what I was trying to do with them, kind of open them up and make us closer to them. Whether it's a win or loss, I was so honored and privileged that the guys would open up with me on these shows and really allow the fans to get to know them. So it's kind of just cool to see when I put work out there, especially digital work, that people are always watching, which is the main lesson from that. And then a bigger opportunity came to me, and now I'm just trying to make the most of that opportunity, because again, I'm just happy and privileged to be in this position, and I'm just glad people support the shows. You know, it's a way to make you smile, and I think it also helps to bring non-football fans closer to the games. I have people reach out to me and say, you know what, Kelsey, I'm not the biggest football fan, but I've enjoyed your shows. Thank you so much for introducing me to this player or that player. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I could do that, because, I think sports is global, and I've always loved sports, but I get that not everybody does. So anything that I can do to help grow the game, it's an honor. And to do that with the Washington football team, Kirby, and the year that they had, I mean, what a time to join the football team, right? I joined when they had one of their best seasons and become NFC East champions.
Absolutely. What a season that was. I we'll get into that a little bit later in the show, but uh, I don't really want to make any comparisons here, but how do you think the media presence of the Washington football team outside of covering the analysis of the week to week games compares to other football teams in the NFL? Have you noticed anything like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, of course, we're always looking and watching, right? And I have to say, I hope people saw that we, by Fox Sports, got voted the best social team. So, shout out to the social team at the Washington football team, just going all in. And now, but I think the Washington football team, what they've done is really expand their digital presence through all these unfiltered shows, right? So, there were 7 unfiltered shows. You have The Legacy with Rick Back Walker. You had Chip hosting The Beat. I mean, Julie on The Game and Santana Moss, like so many people involved in these facets. Anto DeBoss in the lab, we're bringing video games into football. Like it's so cool and it's being innovative. I think the Washington football team has expanded it because I think a lot of football teams are on the analysis part. We see their podcasts and things like that, but they're not taking fans further or deeper than that. And so fans are happy to go to the players' Instagrams to really find out who they are. But we're like, hey, I mean, you can still follow their Instagrams and stuff, but you can come here. So I think what the Washington football team has done, honestly, Kirby, is set a trend. So best believe I see next season some other teams doing this, taking some notes. They're looking at us, right? And I see them hopefully following that because they see it work with the Washington football team. And it also shows that even a year of COVID, that they've expanded their digital presence, right? We added staff. I was a new staff person, right? And it just shows how everything's going digital and everybody wants to be feel informed. And it was just a greater way to get our players' names out there because one of the first things I got to do was interview the rookies, right? So through my shows, I got introduce the rookies to the fans. And what a great way to do that because, again, we can look up their highlight tapes, right? But truly, who are these guys that we're bringing into our families? I think the Washington football team kind of set that bar very high. I've seen it happen with like the Memphis Grizzlies. I know they have like a whole digital component, but that's basketball with work. But football-wise, I think the Washington football team is it. I'm biased, obviously, but I think we set that bar pretty high.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's just a unique perspective outside of just covering the game that happened from week to week. And I think that's what really sets Washington apart, because I don't really notice much of anything else. So, like you said, they probably could be taking notes and be doing something different because what we're doing right now on Zoom. This is what everybody was doing the entire season due to this pandemic.
Exactly. I mean, we all have to be innovative, right? And and you try things and you see if people like it or if they don't. But I mean, just the reception we got and fans having so much more content. And best believe while fans are working from home, what do you want? You want more stuff to watch. You're going to get tired of watching those Netflix shows and the reruns, right? You want new content. And so that's what we tried to provide.
So, out of the 2-3 shows you cover, the Fit and Life, is there a favorite you like doing more than the other?
That's such a great question. It's hard, but I will say that third show that we haven't really touched on, and that's Washington Football Unfiltered, because with that show, I get to tie in all of our unfiltered shows into one TV show on NBC Sports Washington. So it's great. I get to highlight the best clips from each show, and I love that because there's so much great content. And again, I think it gives fans such a different perspective from all of them. And I think you take something different from all of them. I'm sure everyone has different shows. Like if you're into fashion, you'll really enjoy the fashion show. Like the last fashion episode I recorded, Kirby, I never knew that much about men's suits. Never, ever, ever in my life. But I learned so much. And it was great to see that these guys, trust these tailors to make something custom for them so that on game days, because, we like to see the game, but the guys also like to look fly before they even go to that football field. It's just great to see that. So Washington Football Unfiltered, I'm just honored to host that. And just, again, bring all of our 7 digital shows all together into one, like a big Christmas present, and deliver it out to our fans that they can see every Saturday morning.
That's awesome. So, so I want to discuss a little bit about the Fit more.
Okay.
Just fashion and music, is that basically it? And what's the most unique fashion or music trend a player has discussed with you on the show?
That's a great question. So I'll tell you, it's like when you first hear it, you're probably like, oh, well, how big is fashion? And I think people have to remember, especially with the players, there is a big sneaker culture, culture that the guys are bringing up. Think about it. your favorite players are rocking the newest Jordans or the shoes before they even drop. And they're doing exactly what we're doing. They're waiting online, and as soon as it's available, they're trying to get it like everybody else. So it's great to talk with them. Thomas Davis comes to mind, 6 closets full of sneakers, and he's a Jordan brand guy. He gets a new box of Jordans every single month. He keeps building in his house places to put his shoes. And mind you, he has a family. So, it's just kind of cool to see that. And their face lights up. Chase Young's interview comes to mind when he talked about New Balances. And, being from the Maryland area, if you know Prince George's County, PG County, New Balance is a signature shoe that a lot of the guys wear. So it speaks to just representing his hometown. And Chase is playing for his hometown team. So it's things like that, it's such a privilege, hearing that some of the guys still shop at H&M. I thought it was great. I'm like, wait, we can see you at H&M. Like that's us. That's ours. That's our level. And it's great, them getting shy, even talking about the price of their clothing. Like, Kelsey, my mom might be watching. So it's just kind of great to see that. And, even like when I interviewed Logan Thomas about his fashion, and I feel like that's something you don't think about with Logan Thomas, but it like opened him up, and it was cool to see his wife helps to pick his clothes, and his kids tell him, yeah, Dad, that's cooler. No, Dad, that's not so cool. Like, it's just cool to see that side of them again, get to know them off the football field, because they're family guys at the end of the day. They have an off season, right? Like now they're with their families. A lot of them have clothing lines even, right? I think like that's kind of the cool stuff that I love to highlight again, because at the end of the day too, football's going to end. Their clothing line, that's a business. Who knows? That might be something that they can continue on. So the fact that we get to highlight that or put a spotlight on it, it's really great.
So in your interview with Chase Young, how many times did he bring up Givenchy?
That's his famous thing now, right? In all of the interviews, we know Chase likes his designer styles, and I can't be mad at him. Look, with the money Chase makes, Chase gets to like what Chase likes. And it was so funny in my interview with him. He's like, yeah, I'm not that big on, dressing for a date. And he starts naming all of these different clothing items. And we're like, what do you mean, Chase? Like this, and this. I thought you were low key. That's nowhere near low key. But look, his version of low key is different than ours. But, it was great. Just I love his confidence. That's what it is. His Givenchy or whatever he's wearing, he has the confidence in it, and he's not afraid to put it out there. And I think that's what's so great about Chase Young. Confident on the football field and off the football field.
Oh yeah, you saw that post game show. JP Finley had no clue how to say it.
I know.
Chase Young had to correct him, but then Brian Mitchell interviewing him, he straight up says it 100% correct, and they're like bros now,
Look at that, right? B Mitch was like, look, I got this. I got you. I know Chase. And that's what's so great. So you get to see another side of them. And the players, I'm sure, enjoy that, because think about it. They're asked 1,000,001 football questions all the time. So you kind of get to take them out their comfort zone and get to know who they are. And mind you, Chase has been spotlighted for his fashion even when he was at Ohio State University.
Oh, yeah.
That was a surprise to them. But, it just shows a different side, and it makes them more personable. And then I think as journalists and reporters, again, it helps us to tell that story, right? Because knowing who a player is knowing them more than just who they are on the football field.
Yeah, so, with Chase Young yet again, you see the green suit because of money at the beginning of the season, and he wears the green suit again to accept the defensive rookie of the year award for the NFL honor. So I thought that was pretty unique. Also, he was wearing that same green jacket.
He plays like money, right? And that's why he got that award. So we're not mad at you, Chase Young.
Absolutely. So let's move into the life part of the Washington football team digital content. I'm sure you've interviewed a ton of Washington football players about life off of the football field. What's one of your more funnier experiences with a player you interviewed about his story?
Oh my gosh, you are taking me back. I'm really like going through my mind. And people have to remember, when you do multiples of these every week, I love Tressway, and learning that he was a Bachelor and Bachelorette fan. I was like, who are you? Like, how cool is that? And, being open about it. He's like, my wife got me on, but look, I might be a bigger fan than her now. And again, it just helps you to know, these guys off the football field. Jimmy Moreland, oh my gosh, was one of my favorites, because after the interview, he's like, you could have told me my forehead was shiny. I was like, who am I to tell you that? Like to each their own. And even interviewing his parents, oh my gosh, like it was so special. Them describing watching his first career interception. His mom was a police officer, and she talks about how loud they were yelling. And their neighbor had actually called the police because they thought something was going on in the house. And she has to tell the police when they show up, no, I'm a police officer and I was just watching my son and he just got his first career interception. That's what all the commotion was about. Those stories are just so, just so precious, and you can't take them away. And just even seeing his community service, him and Deron Payne going to DC and doing community service prior to the season starting, and just how much that meant for the DC community, volunteering with Martha's Table and other organizations. And they said, they hadn't seen Washington football team players in that community since, get this, Daryl Green. Think about how big that is, and getting to get that sound and get that story again. A team that plays in DC in the community saying, wow, just thank you for being here, because it's been a while, but it means so much that you're here. I love that. And that's why the Life, again, it's just been such a joy to work on, because you get those stories that you don't always get to get, in the pressers and things like that, because you're not talking about that. Even Jimmy, I'm from the DMV area. When he said he grew up chasing rabbits, in the sugar fields, I'm like, what? What were you doing? People do that. How do you chase rabbits? It's well, how do you think I got so fast? So it's those type of stories that, that just come to the top of mind, that I absolutely love. Cam Curl finding out that he doesn't like seafood, very surprising, because I'm Cam, you're in the DMV now. Maryland is right here. We're a seafood state. We love our crab cakes. And he doesn't do shrimp. And later I found out from his dad, he doesn't like shrimp. What was it? Because they poop or something? It was something so funny. His dad was yeah, that's why he doesn't like poop, because he found that out in college. Getting to see the family stories and the connections. It's just always so great. So see, I'm smiling and laughing. There's so many different things.
A lot of great stories for sure.
And I work with Fred Smoot. So there's that too, right?
Oh, Fred Smoot. No, you and Fred Smoot together, it's just a great time. It's a great time. But I love what you said about the players actually getting back and helping the community, because you see a lot of athletes with charitable foundations and other stuff like that giving back to the community. So have you seen a lot of that from other people besides the ones you've mentioned this season due to the pandemic and whatnot?
Yeah, of course, the pandemic has made it so much harder. But the thing about it is the players still wanted to give back, and they found unique ways to give back. Jonathan Allen was one of the guys I had on my, the Life. And of course, he was the Washington football team's nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. But I'll tell you, these guys understand what their platform, right? And they understand that they have a greater power being in their position. And I think that's what's so cool about it. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, every single guy, not even just starters, they wanted to give back. How can you be mad at that? Because again, they understand their position. They care a lot about their hometowns, but they also care about their adopted hometown in the DMV area, playing for the football team here. And they just wanted to learn, know what the people here like, know what they can do. And just seeing them get so involved, that's how we adopt you into the DC, Maryland, and Virginia family, right? If you're a Washington football team fan, not only because you play great on the football field, but because you're here and you're here with us and you're giving back in the hardest times that we've kind of lived through, if you think about it, with the pandemic. So I'd say, yeah, Kirby, their motivation was still there. They still wanted to give back. Of course, they had to find safe ways to do it and be more careful, but they did it. And that's what matters. The fact that you did it and it counted and you changed a life in the process.
Absolutely. That's such a great story. So sort of shifting onto the life of the football field, since you have covered this team, I ask everybody who has covered DC sports, the Washington football team, about Alex Smith and his remarkable comeback back onto a football field. 2 years ago against the Texans, I will remember he gets sacked, breaks his leg, unfortunately, and the news comes out, the storylines are rolling. He might not play football. I certainly didn't think he would play football again. At 18, 19 surgeries, considered war-like injuries, and he could have almost died. And he came back this past season and performed his first snap. Aaron Donald, he gave Aaron Donald a piggyback ride. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And I'm like, he's back. So your thoughts on the remarkable comeback of Alex Smith?
Yeah, number 11, Alex Smith, who we trust and believe in. And I'll tell you, when I first got the Washington job, I put a picture out and I was wearing the Alex Smith jersey because who else do you wear? I mean, just his story was incredible. And I said, don't call it a setback, call it a comeback. And no way am I comparing my own story, but, in my own life, I've had setbacks and obstacles. But seeing someone like Alex Smith inspire us all, he went through everything. So it just showed you, no matter what you're going through, this man, like you said, almost died, had to go through multiple surgeries. We saw Project 11. And the fact that he not only came back and played in a great way and helped to inspire this football team, that speaks volumes. So many of the guys were inspired by Alex Smith. They had to give their all on the football field because you got number 11 you got Alex Smith next to you. And here he is, he defied all the odds and got back to that football field. And I think, having him and then with Ron Rivera beating cancer, this team had to overcome so much adversity, but with strong leaders like those two, they knew they could. And this is why this team believed. This is why, even though they were a young team, they believed in themselves. This is why you saw Chase Young saying, we want Brady. They believed in themselves, right? They had the greatest inspirations on that football team. And I think Alex Smith not only spoke to Washington players, but players all over the league about his comeback. Because like you said, many of us thought he was done. I hate to say it, but, it's like, okay, he's done. We wish him the best. But lo and behold, he did all of that to get back and, again, lead our team to a season that we needed. The DC area, I'll tell you, we needed it. We remember that 3-13 season. Like, we needed to turn things around, and lo and behold, we did. So I think Alex Smith, his story speaks just numerous volumes because it just shows no matter what you go through, there's always a way for you to come back and come back stronger. And that's exactly what he did. He had the players believing in him. He had the DMV area believing in him. He had the national football team believing in him. And I'd say the world believing in him. That's why the documentary went out. That's why, I still remember seeing his leg in that documentary and just thinking, that's the same guy that's on that football field? Just wow. And you can't say enough about it, but I'll just say, Alex Smith, thank you for inspiring us all. I feel like you could get emotional even talking about it because what he did was tremendous. I mean, who does that? Who does so I remember that injury. I remember hearing about how bad it was. And he came back, he inspired the guys, and the quarterback changes we went through in Washington, but he was right there in everyone's ear motivating them. And then when it was time for him to step on the field, he did it in such a great fashion. And so I think he's what leadership looks like. He's what you want your quarterback to look like. And I think he inspired the spark and the dog in everyone on that football team. That's what Alex Smith did.
I mean, this season just felt different. It was like the media is all talking about Washington is undefeated after week 1. I'm like, oh, come on, you're jinxing them. And then obviously they drop 3, 4, 5 straight. And then you have,
the middle part of the season was rough.
Yeah, but even before that, you have all the controversy. We all know the stories. We all know front office, name change, everything. But then you get Coach Rivera diagnosed with cancer, beating cancer eventually. And I mean, this football team, obviously the NFCs just did not look strong this year, but still, they were rallying around, and I feel like that was one of the reasons why Washington came out on the top of this division.
I think you said that so great. Like you said, this team had to overcome a lot of adversity. Remember the summer, everybody knows what happened with the Washington football team. Again, all the odds stacked against this team, people laughing, saying this football team doesn't even have a name. Do they even know their identity? And lo and behold, Washington with a very young team, mind you, because that's something I learned from my interviews too. They remind me I'm not that young because a lot of them are younger than me, but they did what everyone said they couldn't. Because I said at the beginning of the season that the NFC East was the Philadelphia Eagles division to win or lose. All eyes were on the Philadelphia Eagles and Carson Wentz. We thought Carson Wentz was going to have this magnificent season. Lo and behold, I don't need to go deep into that, but Carson Wentz was not the Carson Wentz that we thought, right? The Cowboys are without Dak. It's just different. And, Giants are the Giants. No one was scared about the Giants, but, still no one had big expectations of this Washington football team. New coach, it's young. And then, Dwayne Haskins at the time was still needing to prove himself, right? So we had just a lot of questions surrounding the team. But then, lo and behold, like you said, even through all the adversity, all the quarterback changes, right? All the next man up, right? It happened with Alex Smith getting back on the field. And then, lo and behold, our season ends with Taylor Heineke, of all people, doing something crazy against TB12. Like, who could have wrote that book? We gave the Buccaneers, the Super Bowl champion now Buccaneers, a run for their money when it was supposed to be a joke. Like, they're going to run over the Washington football team. No. You came into our house. We're going to give you a football game. Let me tell you, I haven't seen Washington football team so inspired after a season, especially when we lost the playoff game, as I did this year. And I've lived in the DMV pretty much my whole entire life. We are happy. We are excited for football once again. The last time that happened, I'm looking back to the RG3 era. And then before that, you kind of have to go back to before I was born when the Glory was in Washington. But, it's been a while. And I think that's exactly what this football team did. They changed the narrative. The narrative was negative on Washington. The culture change happened, right? Julie Donaldson's hired, who's my boss, right? First female in a broadcast booth. You have Jennifer King now, who's the first Black female assistant in the National Football League. It's great, and it's the diversity that we're seeing, it's the inclusion that we're seeing. Even Ron Rivera being a minority head coach, like everything is starting to change in Washington. I think when you see that change, we said it with the Buccaneers too, having all African-American coordinators and women on that football staff. And, I love this quote that I've been using all day: diversity wins, inclusion matters. That happened with the Washington football team. That happened with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we're seeing success for both of those organizations.
Absolutely. You said it best, Kelsey. So, I don't think I've touched on this. I'd love to get your thoughts on that week 17 game when Washington had to win. Philadelphia was out, but if they were to win, the Giants would have won the division. And then you have Jalen Hurts, who looks fantastic, getting pulled from this game, and Washington wins.
Yeah. I mean, that game was one that I think all Washington fans will remember, all Philly fans will remember, and definitely all Giants fans will remember. And it was crazy, right? That game was everything you could ask for and more. And speaking of Jalen Hurts, I'm excited for Jalen Hurts' future. I think Philly's got to figure out what it's going to do. We're all lucky to see if Carson Wentz will stay, if he leaves, and if he leaves, where he's going. But that football team knew how important that game was. Win and you're in. Control your own destiny, right? And Ron Rivera had always been preaching, won, not done.
Mm-hmm.
Won, not done. So you had won a game before, but you're not done. You got to get this game in order to go to the postseason. And the postseason, that's a P word that we didn't get to talk a lot about in Washington, Kirby. You got to talk about it next door with Baltimore team, but not with the Washington team all the time. So it meant a lot. And I think that game just proved the aggression of this team. It proved the dogs that they were. And they didn't care about the narrative surrounding surrounding that football game. They were going to do what had to be done to win. And that game was one where you had to watch till the end, but they got the job done. And I know people can make this narrative, of them pulling Jalen and all this other stuff. But look, a football game's a football game. You can look back at it, but it's done. It's over. It happened, right? Yeah. The Washington football team came out on top, and talk about a game that really instilled confidence. It was that game. And so I think they learned a lot from that game. And I think, the rest is history.
As a fan, even though they went 7-9, I mean, this was just, I had to get it. I was like, I was like this, that hat and that shirt, even though they did not get past the wild card, that goes to show the heart they put in this season. That's my thoughts.
You said it, the heart of this football team. Again, they had all believing, like you said, they weren't scared. They weren't afraid. And again, look how young this football team is. This football team is very young, trying to get it together. Again, went through so much adversity, especially at your main position, being in the quarterback, but nothing fazed them, and they got the job done. We had our rookie step up. We saw Chase Young. We saw Cam Curl. I mean, so many, Antonio Gibson. There's just so many people that you can literally just shout out and talk about the seasons that they have. Like you said, they have heart. And when you have heart, it doesn't matter how big or small you are. You can do anything because you believe in yourself.
Absolutely. Once again, we're with Kelsey Nicole Nelson, Kirby on Sports exclusive. You can find Kelsey on Instagram and Twitter at @TheRealKNelson. That was fun talking Washington, but that's not all you do.
Of course not.
You do pretty much all. You have a show for Fox Sports called Listen In with KNN. It's not all sports, some sports and some just general news. Tell us a little bit about listening with KNN and how we can listen to you?
Of course. So yeah, listening with Kanan is my brainchild. It is my baby. It is my podcast that we went from idealization to conception. And it's something that I'm just happy that people have followed and love. It's a sports and entertainment podcast. We do live stream shows and audio shows. And essentially we just try to get stories out, and I've just been so thankful to have everyone follow along. I just did my last live stream show with Super Bowl champion Tony McGee. And, I thought it was so important highlighting him, one, during Black History Month, and two, because he knew what it took to win a Super Bowl. And lo and behold, we just saw a Super Bowl, but it's great. I just had Baltimore's very own Mia Killerby Ellis on, boxing. Like, we touch on everything. Just had the Special Olympics CEO, Mary Davis, on my podcast talking about the upcoming Winter Games in Russia. So it's just so many different things we try to touch on, but so many important issues. And the reason why I call my show Listen In with KNN is because you're supposed to listen in with me, right? I'm Kelsey Nicole Nelson. And essentially I want my audience to be eavesdropping in on a conversation, but also, especially with the live stream show, something that I love is that fans can ask live questions, right? You're a part of it. You can ask these people questions too, even though I'm kind of leading it. I think that's what's been so great. And I'm just honored that it's on the Black Sports platform. I'm honored that people can download it on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify, or check out our live stream version on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter on my pages. But I've had Meta World Peace on, Warren Moon, like just some of the biggest stars. And it just goes back to we're just having a conversation. We're telling stories. Some of them never heard or told before. And we're just trying to let fans in on, what's happening in the world, right? We talk about the latest topics. I'm never afraid or shy to stay away from this topic because it's my show, right? I think important conversations are important. And even those uncomfortable conversations are important because that's how you advance the narrative. So I'm just, again, happy that it's seeing the success it has. It's award winning now. So I'm just thankful that everyone has continued to follow along this journey. And I'm excited. We have a lot of great stories, a lot of great shows in store. I cannot wait to release the upcoming slate of upcoming guests. So if you haven't gotten on the bandwagon yet, listen in with KNN, hashtag listen in with KNN, or hashtag LIWKNN, and you'll see all of our great content.
Absolutely. I recently watched the one with you and Grugier Hill. I have to say that was a really good one.
Yeah, Camus was awesome, and it's great. I'll have lots more players in the off season on that currently play, which is great. And I thought he was great, especially touching on his Hawaiian background and just the overall season he had with the Dolphins. But it was great, and I think that's what's so cool about it. You learn about them as football players, but going back to the shows I do, you also learn about them off the football field and who they truly are and their passions, right, and their inspirations. But they also give us an insight into what's coming up for the upcoming football season, because before you know it, we'll be at the draft, and then before you know it, we'll be at the 2021 NFL season. So it's just it's crazy to think about, but that's how fast time goes.
Absolutely. And that's not all. You do so much more. Like there's a long list. Is there anything else we should touch on that you do? I know you were on 106.7 The Fan, did some stuff with them.
Yeah, I go on DC radio a lot and talk DC sports, which is great because I'm covering the teams that I grew up watching. So I do Wizards coverage, Mystics coverage, Nationals, pretty much everything DC, mostly focusing on football and basketball. And it's just great too, because now I'm also teaching, right? So I have 2 students this semester in Georgetown University Sports Industry Management program. So they're master's students, we're working projects. That's been fun, and it's been so fun to kind of see, again, life come full circle, going through the sports industry management program at Georgetown to now being a capstone advisor, which is basically part-time faculty, and just giving back, making sure these students can complete their thesis papers essentially on just topics that they care about. And then even again, and I never had in the plans to be teaching college courses or anything like that. Lo and behold, then also, I taught with Doral College in Florida. Thanks to technology, I was able to do it from here, intro to podcasting and radio course. And so it just kind of, again, shows, and these students have their own Slam radio station on Sirius XM. Like these students have already radio broadcasting experience in college, making their own podcasts, making their own radio shows. Like, it's been so fun to kind of see what I've learned and take what I've learned and pass it on to the next generation. So, when I'm not doing work, I'm trying to pass it along. And that's super, super important to me, because at the end of the day, I can't take all this knowledge right in my head, or what I've learned from great mentors and people that have taught me. The best thing is to pass it along, right? We stand on the shoulders of giants, to whom much is given, much is required. And that's truly how I feel. And so it's great to be part of that. I co-chair the National Association of Black Journalists Mentorship Committee, and also for the Washington Association of Black Journalists. So, it's just been great to be a part of this. I sit on the board of Most Valuable Kids. Before COVID, we were giving tickets out to nonprofit groups and kids to go to sporting events and concerts. Like, it's been so great to be involved in the community, because I am a broadcaster, but that's not all who I am. There's a lot of dimensions to Kelsey Nicole Nelson. And I just truly want people to remember me as a person who loved what she did and loved to give back.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I wanted to get you on. It's not just sports, it's all the other stuff you do as well. So I wanted to touch really quick. You said you taught at our professor, you did it virtually, which is great, but it's giving back. You mentioned it, but I mean, you're in a position where you go on the radio and you're covering the Washington football team, and you do a lot of stuff. So you're giving back to these kids who want to have an opportunity to be where you or whoever else in the media, where they want to be,
It's so important too, because I'm big on that, because again, I am who I am because so many people poured into me and believed in me, right? And that's why they always pushed me, they always challenged me, and always knew that I could be great, and I'm still working to be great. And I want to make sure I give that back to the next generation, because it's always about helping the people who come behind me, right? I'm only getting older, right? The industry is only getting younger, and it's about adding people in. And I think that's what's so great about it. And again, I think it's our duty, right? It's our duty. It's our duty. It's our duty. And again, I think, I'll use the quote I always love to use: what we do in life echoes in eternity. And when you're teaching in those classrooms, again, it's life coming full circle, because you have these young kids asking you questions and, trying to figure out things, but also they teach me things. I have to put that out there. Like TikTok, I'm still getting used to. Shout out to the students, making sure that Kelsey can stay on top of these trends. They're always changing. And even the podcast, giving that youth feedback and that youth perspective, it's truly, truly great. So like you said, and I encourage people to be that, like, you should love what you do, but, I'm not a person that's ever been able to be placed in one box. I don't even know what it is to have one job. I've never only had one job, but I enjoy it because I enjoy what I do. And again, it's about me leaving an impact. And I'll tell you, growing up, I didn't see as many people that look like me, Kirby, in sports media and broadcasting. I'm big on representation. And I also know that power of, a young girl of color seeing me and hopefully inspiring her to say, I can do that too. That's what I want. I think it's so important, just for people to also see anybody who's anybody can get into broadcasting if you work hard and put the work in.
So we've seen a lot of barriers get broken, especially with the NFL. All these female coaches, Sarah Thomas most recently being an official in the Super Bowl, all these positions that are more male dominant that females are starting to come into, which I love. So you being a woman in sports, do you have any wise words or thoughts for anybody who might be tuning in, who is a woman who wants to pursue a field in sports or something like that? What's like a word of advice you would give to them?
I would tell them to bet on yourself, meaning always believe in yourself. If you're in a room, know you're supposed to be there. Own that room. Never let anyone belittle you or make you feel like you shouldn't be there. I think sometimes that happens with females, and a lot of times you sometimes will be the only one in that room, and you have to stand up and be that loud voice, showing that, again, you put the work in to be there. And betting on yourself means investing yourself, right? If you take a podcast course, get a voice coach, right? Get a website, have somewhere to put your portfolio. Make sure you're always pouring into the work that you love and do so others can see that as well. And when you bet on yourself too, it means that you won't ever let anybody tell you you're not supposed to do something. Because if you want to do something and you put the work in, and again, if you believe in yourself, you will make it happen. Betting on yourself means, sometimes the road might not be easy. You might have a lot of detours and turns, but you're going to do whatever it takes in terms of your work ethic to make sure you still reach your final destination. Betting on yourself means making sure you're networking, right? Making sure that you're in the right rooms or right virtual conferences, right? Since we're virtual now. I think that would be my best piece of advice, because if you don't bet and believe on yourself, then how do you expect others to? And I think a lot of times as human beings, we bet on celebrities because we love celebrities, but who's to say you're not the next one? Put your work in, bet and believe in yourself, and you never know where life might take you.
Kelsey, very valuable insight. I could probably go on for another 1 or 2 hours, but I'm sure we have other stuff to do, but this has been a lot of fun. Once again, Kelsey Nicole Nelson as part of the Kirby on Sports exclusives. Once again, Kelsey, can you tell the listeners and viewers how to find Listening with KNN and where they can find you on social media?
Of course. So everyone can find all of my work on my website, KelseyNicoleNelson.com. I have the simplest name in the world, regular spelling Kelsey, K-E-L-S-E-Y. You can find my show on social media. On Instagram and Twitter, it's The Real K Nelson. And on Facebook, it's Kelsey Nicole Nelson. Check out all the great work. You can go to foxsports1340am.com as well, too, to find my show. But we're on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. Just type in Listening with KNN. And then, of course, my live stream show you can catch on my YouTube page. Just type in Kelsey Nicole Nelson, or my Twitter or Facebook pages. So I hope people follow along. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a live stream show, as well as every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And brand new episodes of the audio version drop every Wednesday at noon. So I hope everyone tunes in. Lots of great content to catch up on. And I always have special guests joining me each and every week.
Oh yeah, that's what's fun about it. Listen to what she told you. Tune in. You have to, because I will be more. I have been before, but I will be a lot more. Kelsey, we really appreciate the time here on the Kirby on Sports podcast. As always, we are sponsored by Regroup Building Services, PM Plus Reserve, Shenandoah Primitives, and Chief Graphics. Big thanks, as always, to Dave Johnson and Productions by Quet for our music as well. Until the next time we see each other, always remember to create greatness, and we will catch you next time. Peace out.